You probably won't believe me, but I need to tell someone before it happens again. It's a cold, sinking feeling that's settled deep in my gut ever since that trip to Savannah, a constant whisper that something's tethered to me, something I can't shake. I was on one of those late-night ghost tours. You know, the kind where a guide in a wide-brimmed hat leads a gaggle of wide-eyed tourists through cobblestone streets, spinning tales of spectral ladies and restless souls. I'd always been fascinated by the macabre, and Savannah, with its moss-draped oaks and centuries-old buildings, felt like the perfect place to indulge that fascination. Be honest, are you watching this lying in bed right now? Or somewhere else? Comment your setup. I know many of you use these scary stories to relax and fall asleep, and I'm doing my best to grow this little channel. Share your feedback, it helps me a lot. Let me know in the comments things like, are the stories too long or too short? Do you want more sound effects? Is the narration calming enough? Your words keep me going. Now, let's dive in. It was on River Street, the gas lamps casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to writhe like trapped spirits themselves, that it started. Our guide, a woman named Eleanor, with eyes that held a hint of something ancient, had just finished a particularly gruesome story about a pirate who'd met an untimely end on those very docks. As she spoke, I felt a draft, colder than the humid Georgia night air should have allowed. I brushed it off as nerves, the theatrical atmosphere getting to me. Then, she suggested we document our descent into the city's haunted history with a group photo. We all gathered, a huddle of eager faces illuminated by the glow of phone screens. Eleanor positioned us, her voice a low, soothing murmur. I squeezed in between a couple from Wisconsin and a young woman from Chicago, all of us smiling, trying to look appropriately spooked. I remember glancing over my shoulder, just to get a better sense of the dimly lit alleyway behind us, and that's when I saw him. He was a man, or at least he looked like one. Tall, gaunt, dressed in what appeared to be old-fashioned clothing, a dark, ill-fitting suit and a fedora pulled low. But what struck me most was his stillness. He was just there, standing perfectly still in the deepest shadow, yet his presence felt like a physical weight pressing in. He wasn't looking at us, not exactly, but his face was turned just so, as if contemplating the precise moment to step out of the darkness. A shiver, unrelated to the cold, traced its way down my spine. The flash of Eleanor's camera bulb momentarily blinded me. When my vision cleared, the man was gone. I blinked, scanning the alley. Nothing, just the usual shadows and the faint glint of discarded glass. I chalked it up to the flickering lights, my imagination running wild. But then we took another photo, further down the street, near the old cotton exchange. Again, as we posed, I felt that familiar chill, that prickling sensation on my skin. I didn't even have to look. I knew he was there. This time, as the phone flash illuminated the scene, I subtly angled my own phone, snapping a quick, candid shot of the area behind me, as we all smiled for the main picture. Later, back in my hotel room, scrolling through the photos, my blood ran cold. In every single group shot, there he was. Not a smudge, not a trick of the light, but a distinct, solid figure of a man, standing behind me, his face obscured by the brim of his hat. In the candid shot I'd taken, he was there too, a dark silhouette watching from the periphery. The couple from Wisconsin, the girl from Chicago, Eleanor, none of them were looking at him. None of them had seen him. The next morning, I sought out Eleanor. I found her setting up for another tour, her usual friendly demeanor tinged with a weariness I hadn't noticed the night before. I showed her the photos, my voice trembling slightly. "Eleanor," I began, "I think there was someone following us. Or at least, he was in our photos. Did you see him?" Her smile faltered. Her eyes, which had seemed so full of stories the night before, now held a deep, unsettling fear. She took my phone, her fingers brushing mine as she scrolled through the images. As she lingered on the photo with the man, her face went impossibly pale. The color drained from her lips, leaving them a stark white against her skin. "Oh, dear Lord," she whispered, her voice barely audible. She handed the phone back, her hand shaking so badly she almost dropped it. I don't know how. He hasn't been seen for years. Not like this." "Seen?" I pressed, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Who is he?" Eleanor took a deep, shuddering breath, her gaze fixed on some point in the distance, as if seeing something I couldn't. "They called him the Alley Man, a serial killer. Decades ago, He met his end on this very street, not far from where you took that first photo. A brutal death. They say he never truly left. She looked at me then, her eyes wide and raw with a kind of terror I'd only ever felt in my worst nightmares. He doesn't just haunt places, you see. He marks people who are meant to follow him, to die the way he did. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt a sudden, sharp pain in my side, as if an unseen hand had just punched me. I gasped, clutching my ribs, but there was nothing there. Just the insistent, chilling thought that Eleanor's pale face and trembling words were not just about a ghost, but about a prophecy. Hold on, real question for you guys. If you were in this situation, what would you do first, run, hide, or try to fight back? Tell me in the comments. That day, I couldn't stay in Savannah. The charming squares and historic buildings now felt menacing, every shadow a potential hiding place. I practically ran back to my hotel, packed my bags with frantic haste, and checked out, eager to put as much distance between myself and that city as possible. But as I walked towards the taxi stand, a familiar cold settled over me. I could feel eyes on my back, a silent, unnerving scrutiny. I didn't dare look. I just kept walking, my pace quickening. The taxi arrived, and I practically dove into the back seat. As the driver pulled away, I risked a glance in the rearview mirror, and there, at the edge of the hotel driveway, standing impossibly still, was the man in the fedora. He didn't move, didn't wave, just stood there, a dark, watchful sentinel. The drive to the airport was a blur of frantic thoughts and racing anxieties. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination, the residual effect of Eleanor's words and those unsettling photos. I boarded my flight, and for a while I felt a flicker of relief. Strapped into my seat, soaring through the air, I was surely safe. But the feeling of being watched persisted. During the flight, I kept feeling a strange, disconnected sense of déjà vu, as if I were reliving moments I hadn't yet experienced. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that shadowed alley, the gas lamps, and his silent, waiting presence. Upon arriving home, I tried to resume my normal life. I went to work, met friends, did all the things I usually did. But the unease never left. I started noticing things. A fleeting shadow in my peripheral vision, a cold spot in a room that was otherwise warm, the distinct feeling of someone standing just behind me when I was alone. I'd jump at every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside my window. One evening, a week after I'd returned, I decided to retrace my steps. Not in Savannah, of course, but in my mind. I pulled out the photos again, staring at the man in the fedora. Where had he been standing in relation to me? I visualized the streets, the turns, the specific locations Eleanor had pointed out. It was a morbid curiosity, a desperate attempt to understand, to rationalize. As I mentally walked through the ghost tour route, a new thought, a terrifyingly clear image, formed in my mind. It wasn't just a random alley where he'd died. It was a specific alley, a narrow, forgotten passage between two old brick buildings, a place Eleanor had paused to tell a particularly chilling tale about a hidden crime. And the detail that made my stomach clench was the memory of Eleanor saying something about the precise spot where the killer had been apprehended, where his reign of terror had ended. The thought lodged itself in my brain, growing and festering. I remembered standing there, feeling that frigid draft and looking into that dark, uninviting space. The image of the man was clearer now, his face turned towards me, and a sickening realization washed over me. It wasn't just that he followed people marked for death. It was that he led them to their predetermined end. And the chilling, gut-wrenching truth that has kept me awake every night since is this. I know, with a certainty that chills me to the bone, that the ghost tour wasn't just about the past. It was a preview. And the alley I saw in my mind, the one where the stories of death converged, felt less like a memory of the tour and more like a destination. A destination I'm still being guided towards, one step at a time, by a man in a fedora who only I can see. And the scratching in my apartment walls lately, I'm starting to think it's not rats. This small channel is growing because of you. Subscribe if you enjoy these late night scares, and comment below which story stuck with you the most.